Beautiful Tuesday morning right here on High Impact TV. The show is at the Breakfast Cafe, in case you just joined us for the first time. And on this flight, we don't go solo, right? We always do it in twos. But before I introduce my co-pilot for this morning, I am Vivian Oguche, and it's a pleasure to be here. But the bigger pleasure is to have you join us. And right here is Sarah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, Vivian. Looking stunning in black and white.
Thank you.
You look absolutely amazing.
You look good too. Beautiful.
Thank you.
I love the dress. It reminds me of Meghan Markle. I don't know why, but that's the vibe you're giving.
But thank you for joining us on the program today. I am Sarah Owusu, and so we trust your week started off very, very, very great. You know, on the Breakfast Cafe, we have so much in store for you, from our batters and etiquette to newspaper review to conversation with our guests, views from the net, trending stories. In fact, Vivian will say it's a bumper ride. Trust me, it is a bumper ride. I will be kicking off with our banters and etiquette segment for this morning. I'm rushing because of time. Now this morning on our banters and etiquette, we're talking about creating an environment for success, and this involves setting the stage for growth and achievement in various aspects of life. Now, to cultivate such an environment, it is essential to focus on key elements such as mindset, goal setting, organization, support system, and self-care. Now, this also involves physical space, that is, organizing your workspace, home or study area to minimize distractions and maximize focus. Very important. Your physical space matters a lot. How you organize it, how you properly manage it to accommodate. Sometimes people say there are certain spaces that they cannot work. It's very true. So if your space is disorganized, you can't function effectively.
Absolutely, I agree.
Right. Another thing to note out for is tools and resources. Having the necessary equipment, software, or materials to accomplish your task effectively. Also have systems and processes, establish routine schedules and workflows to streamline tasks and reduce stress. It's important to have a schedule.
That one touched a nerve. This is so essential. The reduction of stress. I mean, stress is a silent killer.
Honestly.
Yeah, so you have to do absolutely everything you can to reduce stress.
Very true. Also, you have to have a good support network, people that are out there to support you. Surround yourself with positive influence, mentors. Also have accountability partners, people that can hold you responsible for certain things. Self-care, minimalism and decluttering, have goal-oriented habits, continuous learning, set boundaries, review and adjust. That's a way of assessing your progress, looking for areas where you need to improve upon and making adjustments to maintain the momentum. Also, by creating an environment that supports your success, you'll be better equipped to stay focused and motivated. Also, you'd manage your time effectively. You'll be able to overcome obstacles and distractions, and you'll be able to achieve your goals and aspirations. Now, remember, by integrating these elements into your life daily and also your daily surrounding, you can create an environment that nurtures growth, resilience, and ultimately success in your endeavors. Remember, success is a journey, and cultivating the right environment can set the stage for meaningful achievement.
I love the way you ended it. Success is a journey. People don't even see it that way.
People don't. People have turned success to something that is just cliche.
Yeah.
And sometimes people want it to just happen overnight. Like, I just want to sleep and wake up and boom, I am successful.
That's magic. It doesn't happen like that.
You put in the work, you put in the effort, and over time, it will definitely pay off. But that's it about our banters and etiquette segment for this morning. We hope you learned 1, 2, or maybe 3 things from this. We'll take a break now. We'll be back with the front pages of the papers for the newspaper review. Do stay with us.
As a child, what is most important to you is love, warmth, acceptance, and security. But as you grow, there is a paradigm shift in the way you approach life. The interest you lose in some things, you pick in other things. Sometimes, the road is smooth. Other times, it is rough. Every step of the way comes with a new hurdle to scale. You win some, you lose some. You laugh hard, you cry hard, but at the end, you look back with a fulfilling smile and say, what a ride. High Impact Television equips you with what you need every step of the way.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Cafe, but this time around we moved into the newspaper review segment, and this is where we take a look at stories on the national dailies, the Punch, the Guardian, the Vanguard, as well as the Daily Trust, and we also get to take your calls and contributions on stories making the rounds this morning. The phone line to call is 0812-182-0154. It's open already. Do well to call us, contribute to any of the headlines, or share your thoughts. But let's kick off with the Vanguard. And you know, the Vanguard, when I saw the Vanguard newspaper this morning, I heaved a very heavy sigh. It was like a burden. The major caption on the Vanguard newspaper says, Dangote Petrol, Nigerians to pay 950 naira per litre. Now this statement is credited to the NNPCL. Lots of riders to that story. Pump price now, Lagos 950, Abuja 992 naira, Borno 1019 naira. Second rider.
Can I come in there?
Yes, yes.
Now, why would you say Borno should pay 1,019 naira and Lagosians should pay 950 naira when you know that Lagosians have the ability, the capacity to even do better than people in Borno?
Now, let's. I don't want us to go through that route because.
Yeah.
You know, even the people that probably had the capacity to do better in Lagos are currently struggling as well. Now, considering the disparity in prices, it has been like that, since. A couple of callers called in yesterday from Edo, Delta, Benue, Taraba, and they all had different prices they were buying fuel right now. So there has always been that disparity. Lagos usually has like the lowest price. Even if you go to Ibadan, which is not so far, there's also a disparity.
And you know why? Because there are ports in Lagos.
So that could be one of the reasons. But this is a very, very concerning headline. And look how it's funny that we're in a country where a product that is manufactured locally is even more expensive than the one that is imported. So help us break this down so we can properly understand what we're doing.
In fact, I had an analyst on our sister station, High Impact 102.1 FM yesterday, and he said in Venezuela, which is an oil-producing state, if you convert what they pay into naira, they pay less than 50 naira for fuel.
You know, this is, let's take some other riders here. NNPC completes lifting 16.5 million liters. Another rider says, we're not taking delivery of refineries petrol. This is coming from depot owners. Excuse me, consumers should expect 1,200 naira per litre. This is coming from marketers. And the last rider says, sector requires increased transparency.
I agree.
Honestly, I'll just hold my thoughts because we dealt with this, we spoke about this yesterday on the show, myself and Olumide, and we'd have to talk about it in-depthly again today.
Yeah, that's the topical issue, right?
950 naira per litre? How so?
Yeah.
Well, you get all of the details, page 5, Vanguard newspaper, but you can also call in 0812-182-0154. Share your thoughts. Above the masthead, food prices, others ease pressure on August inflation rate of 32.15%. That's a page 19 read. 75 die in Kaduna accident. Zamfara boat mishap. This is very unfortunate. And according to a story I saw, they were actually on their way for the Eid al-Maulud celebration, and this had to happen. Our heart goes out to their families. We send our condolences to the families. Beside that story, talking about the flooding in Borno State, Maiduguri, Tinubu announces disaster relief fund. He visited Borno State yesterday, and we saw the update on social media. Eid al-Maulud, fix Nigeria before it's too late. Christian Association of Nigeria tells leaders. That's a page 9 read. Moving on, Okonjo-Iweala to seek second term as World Trade Organization DG. I wish her all the very best and success. It's a page 20 read, and lastly on sports, page 30, Sports Minister commends young talent at the National Youth Game. You want to get all the details, sports page 30, Vanguard newspaper has it. And that's a wrap on the front page of the Vanguard this morning.
All right, I've got the Punch, and middle strip, you have the subtitle here, EduGov election or EduGov poll. Major headline says, petrol crisis threatens election as APC, PDP prepare for showdown. Just one rider. INEC transporters review election materials, personnel carriage contract, and parties rejig last-minute strategies in this age of technology and advancement. I'm
just thinking, you might probably start hearing things on Saturday that, oh, this polling unit do not have ballot papers because there's no fuel to transport
materials from one place. It shouldn't happen. There is technology now.
We should be technologically advanced by now. You don't need to do all these things, or you would hear, oh, logistics challenge. We were unable to get fuel early enough, so the elections could not start. So some polling units could not cast their votes. So we have to postpone some polling units.
Yeah,
all of those things.
Not now. We shouldn't be hearing that. Well, just above that, we have this one here. Floods sacked 404 million from Nigerian schools and others. This is coming from the World Bank, and it is alarming. Just below that, under 18 candidates, JAMB to limit interactions with applicants. And above the masthead, 950 naira per litre Dangote petrol may justify more importation. This is coming from the marketers. And just one rider to that story, dealers PMS vessels, that's the PMS vessels of the dealers, arrive as Ipman Petron demand transparency in pricing. I mean, this is just, this thing between the marketers and Dangote Refinery and the NNPCL is just mind-boggling.
Because, you know, this headline saying 950 naira per litre Dangote petrol may justify more importation. If they were importing it and they were able to sell it less than that,
then why do we need Dangote Refinery?
Exactly. Why are we now doing it locally? It was supposed to bring some sort of relief, but now it's putting so much more pressure on Nigerians. So what is the benefit? What is the impact at the end of the day?
Absolutely. Dangote has been having it really smooth with Nigerians. I mean, he's had the sympathy of the people. But this doesn't look good. How much does it cost Dangote Refinery to produce 1 liter? 1 liter. How much? Transparency. So I agree, for the call for transparency is in order. Why is Dangote selling a liter for, what's it called now, 950 naira per liter? Why?
That's what NNPC is going to sell at.
We
recall that yesterday, they were, from Sunday, there have been speculations that Dangote is selling for 898 thereabout. So NNPC talked about how this was exclusive of other costs. So adding all of these costs together.
What cost? There's no landing cost,
Well, according to them, we took it yesterday. This was, they put it as associated costs.
Oh my gosh.
So now Dangote also, we got report yesterday that he debunked it, saying that he did not sell petrol.
Dangote said he
price.
sold for 760.
So all of these disparities are causing a lot of uncertainties here and there. But if Dangote if NNPC is pegging this at 950, then we're in for a ride.
Well, let's take a look at other stories on the front page of the Punch. This one here says Tinubu visits Borno, pledges support for flood victims. You have the picture there talking about this particular story. And then another story says NLC, Abure-led NWC reject new LP faction. The cookie is beginning to crumble. Let's see this other one here. Ogun landlord defiles tenant's 14-year-old daughter. This is pedophilia and it must be condemned in the strongest terms. Last but not least, on the front page of the Punch, SIM-NIN linkage, 65 million GSM lines risk disconnection. That's huge. Out of over 200 and something million Nigerians, 65 million risk disconnection. That's
this
huge.
This linkage conversation has been on for quite a while, where they have been calling on Nigerians to actually link their SIM cards with their NIN. But you know, when all these things are happening, one will feel like, okay, why this is happening is for proper recognition, to be able to track down people. You know, if you are committing a crime or anything, once they have your number, with all of the registrations we've done, they should be able to track you. But when we now start hearing cases where people are kidnapped, insecurity, we find out that it's as though some of these processes that we have to go through
is in vain.
Is in vain, because if you say, okay, people link their BVN to their account number, link your NIN to your SIM card, it should be it should be easy for those that need that information, if the need arises, to be able to track or trace the person
It should be easier for the intelligence architecture to track down bandits and terrorists and all of that.
So we don't see those things happen with bandits and terrorists. Is it that they don't link their SIM cards or what have you? Well, I know.
Well, that wraps it up for us on the front page of the Punch.
Right, 0812-182-0154. Do want to call us and share your thoughts on any of the headlines this morning. Straight up to the Guardian newspaper. It has the story about the fuel situation in the country. Concerns as fuel price hike, weak naira dampen inflation outlook. Now, the Guardian newspaper breaks this down. We can see an infographics of commuters paying over 50% more for fares with hike in fuel price. It will cost a minimum of 70,000 naira, an equivalent of the monthly minimum wage, to fill an average utility vehicle. So if I want to fill my tank now and I want to make it very full, I'll be spending almost the minimum wage.
Yeah,
so
that's what it means.
Make it make sense. So we increased the minimum wage from 33,000 to 70,000, and every other thing followed suit. So where's the balance? We also see how this one talks about inflation spiking to 32.15%. Front page of Guardian newspaper. Fuel at 950 naira per litre. We see, in fact, one of the things that amazes me a lot is the price of beans. Beans used to be gari, okay. Beans used to be quite affordable to an extent. Now beans is even very expensive. Rice stands at 95,000 naira for a bag. Beans stands at 230,000 naira for a bag.
The margin is so big.
Yam, 6,000 naira. If you're lucky, you could get it for less. Gari, yes, no. Yeah. Gari, 56,000 naira. Gari. Pepper, I think this is all the basket thingy, 100,000 naira, and bread for 1,800. In fact, you see that bread, I used to love bread a lot, but these days I just realized too much bread is not good. You have to reduce your intake of bread. Try to avoid it if you can. If you used to eat it 3 times a week before, now eat it once in 2 weeks. Because what? It was so, in fact, you go to the bakery. There's a time I go to the bakery today, okay, it's 1,001. I'm not joking. Today is Tuesday. By the time I go back on Friday, the time is 1,003. If I choose to go back on Sunday, and they'll just be putting the notice on their door. So the price of everything has really, really skyrocketed, and this is affecting us as a nation. But you get details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Moving on from that story, fake Maiduguri flood victims mar operations at IDP camps.
Are you kidding me?
Pretending to be
How does that even happen?
Displaced. But this is a page 6 read. Mpox, no plan to impose travel restrictions on Africans, says the United States. You get details on page 3, Guardian newspaper. Abure's tenure as Labour Party boss expired in June 2024. The statement is credited to the INEC. That's also a page 3 read. Obi MRA lament harassment, erosion of democratic ideals. Get details on page 5. Outdated tech, human errors expose Nigeria to 586,310 cyber threats in the first half of 2024. Details, business, page 15. Review inevitable, says Lagos State government as parents kick against 300% hike in model colleges boarding fee. Just imagine that, over 300% hike. So on page 7, gunmen kill 5 in fresh attack on Plateau community. Insecurity. Page 30 has the details. And lastly, NAITI wants funds monitored, tracked as FAAC shares 3.4 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2024. Details, page 3, Guardian newspaper. That's it on the front page of the Guardian newspaper this morning.
Well, let's quickly take a look at the Daily Trust, and we have this one here, major headline. Despite 40 billion naira ecological fund, flood ravages states. We have 2 writers to that story. Experts fear mismanagement of allocations, and 108 billion naira latest disbursement largesse for some governors. That's the second rider. Above the masthead, you have concerns as NIPOST reform initiative hits rock. Also, the story here says CBN urged to reduce interest rate as food inflation drops to 37.52%. And then Senator Barrow receives Kano Gov's top aide, Sani Dambo, into APC from the NNPP. Let's see what this one here is saying. Many Maulud celebrants killed in Kaduna Road accident. That's the one Sarah talked about earlier on. Also, residents panic over earth tremor in Abuja community. This one here says we'll support Maiduguri flood victims. That's coming from President Tinubu. And then last but not least, gunmen attack Anambra police station, kill 2 officers.
It's the audacity.
Yeah.
They are now attacking police stations, our security, architecture, and they are going away with it.
Yeah.
It's the audacity.
That's it. Well, that wraps it up for us on this first part of the newspaper review. When we come back after this short break, we'll have a guest analyst to help us dissect these issues one after the other. Stay with us.
Bad production can kill a great content idea.
Do you want to have a photo shoot, audio production, or do you need a professional voiceover artist?
Do you simply want unmatched cinematography, video production, or just event coverage, such as weddings, birthdays, or burials?
Or do you need a space for meetings or conferences? All these are possible with High Impact Studios. Don't bring down your creativity, let's help you take it high.
And out of this world with our state-of-the-art equipment and first-class studio space.
We give you the quality you deserve at the best rate.
For more details, call 0706 393 5694 or 0915 958 1881. High Impact Studios, the future.
right, welcome back. It's the second part of the newspaper review, and we are being joined by socio-political technocrat, our very own friend of the house right here. He is Dr. Kayode Adedayo. Good morning, Doctor. How are you today?
Yes, everything is cool and calm. Good morning. Except that petrol is not readily available to the people.
Let's begin from that particular issue, right? Because that's that's what's on the minds of Nigerians right now. Petrol. I mean, we had so much hopes for Dangote Refinery rolling out its products. It's here, and now we have. Take a listen to this, headline on the front page of the Punch. It says 950 naira per liter Dangote petrol may justify more importation. This is coming from the marketers. They're saying, okay, if we were able to sell less when we're importing, why are we buying more? Why are we paying more when we have someone producing in our country? Why don't we just continue to import? What's your take on this?
It's nothing other than leadership conspiracy against the people. I was discussing with someone yesterday, and I now told them that what we are experiencing in this country is nothing other than conspiracy against the people. And they now asked me why. I said, okay, a father is supposed to control the children as regards table etiquette. When that father is not doing so, try to understand that he has some ulterior motive, like either being able to eat more of the pieces of meat inside the plate or to consume more of the food than the child. I mean, how can you expect a child to be using fork and knife to eat pounded yam instead of the hand?
Yeah.
Instead of the hand. So what I'm saying in essence is this. Dangote Refinery itself has never fixed the price. And you see those in control fixing the price. Now the question is, what is the president doing as regards that? If he is not part of the connivance. All right? Now tell me again, what is the use of us preparing pounded yam in our own house because we have tubers of yam in our own farm, which the market price doesn't affect? We have our own mortar to prepare it. We also have vegetable plantation in our farm. So how can we now say that we will abandon the one we prepared in the house to that of the outside if there is no connivance? There's one Yoruba that says, Aluwala ologbo, ọgbọ́n àti kẹran jẹ. That is, when you see a cat sitting down quietly and then rubbing his four hands, believe it, is looking for your carelessness so that cat will be able to go and eat your meat that you are keeping somewhere. Tell me, we are not producing this in here. We are the one giving Dangote Refinery crude oil. The refinery is within Nigeria. You are not shipping it. You are not paying any custom duty. So how come you are now saying it is cheaper than the one that you are importing. It is absurd. It is never heard of. Absurd and never heard of. So if you are not saying you want to be importing, that means because you have stolen our commonwealth to go and develop some other economy by building refineries there, and then you don't want to lose that money that you have invested there. That's why you are now saying yes, the one being imported is cheaper,
right,
than the one you have been produced in your country.
Dr. Adedayo, let me interrupt you for a second.
No, little wonder. They have never allowed Dangote refinery to reel out this product.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Let's talk about
take that one to lie low.
Right. Let's talk about the importation. We recall that not too long ago, NNPC came out to talk about how they were in debt. And the federal government also talked about how they cannot continue to import. Now, based on this headline, still on the Punch newspaper, major oil marketers have come out to state that the high price of this petrol would encourage the importation of the commodity. And they also noted that some PMS vessels might arrive in Nigeria from today. They stated that some big players may not get the quantity of petrol that they want from Dangote, and they may have to complete this by importing. Now, we're looking at the possibility of marketers still importing petrol into a country where we're producing it locally. How do we balance this? Dangote has the petrol that he has rolled out to the NNPC, but some marketers are saying, oh, because of the price, there's still a possibility of us importing. Are we going to see a case where some marketers' petrol might become cheaper than that's being sold at NNPC? How do we balance this, and how do we ensure that NNPC doesn't now eventually put a sort of monopoly in quote, or is there a possibility of an absolute instruction on no more importation? Let's get your thoughts on that.
You see, everything you have said are being fraught with truth gap. Truth gap.
Okay.
There is no more truth between the leaders and the led, to the extent that what we are now seeing in this country is nothing other than aristocracy. We are being deceived from all angles, and it is unfortunate Nigerians have been lazy enough not to be getting at facts to present their own side of the story to the government, towards showing scientific understanding of circumstances within our political environment. Imagine this: NNPC that has not been producing, NNPC that has been collecting money over the years for turnaround maintenance of our refineries, now coming out to say is owing billions of dollars. So how did you come about that? Even the petrol PMS now that you have been importing, have you been selling that particular product on credit? Have you been selling on credit? So how come you are owing? Of recent, if you remember, I think early this year or late last year, was it not the same NNPC that was declaring profits?
Yes, they were declaring profits.
So where is that profit?
Even the monies that have been saved over the removal of the fuel subsidy, you know, there was a time we were hearing 1 trillion
where is that
naira.
profit? That is number one. Number two, remember, when this government is being sworn in, on the inauguration day, he said that so that we can have enough savings for infrastructural development, is now removing fuel subsidy, and the price of PMS jumped by over 300%. So where are those savings? Tell me, where are those savings?
Right.
What have you used those savings to do? Do you understand?
Yes.
So who is deceiving who here? Who is deceiving who?
That's
Remember,
why.
there's a saying, there's a saying that says, you can deceive all of the people all of the time. I mean, some of the time. You can deceive all of the people some of the time. But you cannot deceive all of the people all of the time.
All right.
Time has now shown that Nigerians are being ruled by deceivers, propagandists, Machiavellians, and wicked people in the high place.
That's why there have been calls for an increased transparency and accountability in these sectors. Thank you for your thoughts, Dr. Adedayo Kayode. But just before Vivian comes in and before we move away from this particular headline, I would like to connect this with, in regards to this Edo governorship polls that is set to hold on Saturday, the 21st of September 2024. Now, the Punch puts it this way: Edo governorship poll, petrol crisis threatens election as APC and PDP set for showdown. Now, a writer says INEC and transporters review election materials, personnel carriage contract. In a climb where everything is getting digitized, technological advancement, we're still seeing updates like this. First off, let's get your perspective on these headlines talking about the petrol crisis threatening the election. Are we probably seeing the possibility of a move owing to this, like a postponement? Or let's get your perspective. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Let's just get your perspective on this.
You see, we have talked about the conspiracy in the petroleum sector. We have also talked about the pricing and how the government have been deceiving us towards milking us unnecessarily. Now, let us now take a cursory look at that Edo election that you just mentioned. If you remember, I think last week, the PDP said it will not sign
The peace accord.
the peace accord.
Yes.
The peace accord. And it's because they have seen the likely effect of some of the officials that are going to take part in the electioneering processes in Edo State. For instance, the issue of the commissioner of police transferred to Edo and the issue of REC, even though I will blame PDP not to have raised that issue of REC before now. But however, how does that now ensure a level playing ground in Edo? If you can recollect what happened during the last presidential election, whereby the Mahmoud came out to plead passionately to Nigerians that every result will be transferred electronically. What did he say? I will now use this opportunity to advise the Edo people that any result that is to be announced, despite if INEC should talk about glitches, should not be allowed to stand, because there is nobody who has the monopoly of violence. Nobody. Look at what has been happening in Edo State now. People now going around with guns, cutlasses, and all that, saying that they are. And now even saying all those other security outfits that are legal to the state You are now saying they shouldn't be involved in electioneering. Where is that one done? So that means you now want to use the police to harass the people. Who doesn't know? Who doesn't know that when a thief comes to one's house, steal your property, and is not telling you brazenly that yes, I know I've stolen your property, let us go to the police station. Who doesn't know that his cousin or uncle or wherever is waiting for him at that police station to free him? Who doesn't know? So Edo people should be vigilant. They should open their eyes. Anything that goes against the electoral guidelines should not be allowed to stand.
Yeah.
Because we Nigerians, we are now wise enough.
I agree. Nigerians are very wise. Yeah, Nigerians are very... Yeah, so let me quickly come in, right, because we have, our time is not much. I want us to quickly...
Let us borrow time today. Let us borrow time today.
I wish we could. But you know, doctor, there's this issue that's also on the front burner right now, right? Let me draw your attention to the front page of the Daily Trust. It says, despite 40 billion naira ecological fund, flood ravages states. I want to give you a little background to the flood issue in Nigeria now, especially the one in Borno, which is drawing lots of concerns from all around the world. Now, defects in Alau Dam in Maiduguri, which were discovered over 9 years ago, are responsible for the overflow of the dam, which has resulted to the displacement of millions of Nigerians. Now, interestingly, on our sister station, High Impact 102.1 FM, at 9 a.m. today, they're going to be discussing this issue, flooding, natural or infrastructural disaster. What's your take on this?
You see, let us look at ecological fund from the days of, I think, Evans Aino, isn't it? Evans Aino, in those days. Evans Aino, I remember, yes, Evans Aino, in those days. Bringing that to that ecological fund during Fayose era in Ekiti. Bring it to ecological fund in I think Enugu or so along the line again. Bring it down now to today. Now put it side by side. What Better Edu also did in our own ministry then. What am I saying here? These are conduit pipes in which government officials have been using to siphon our monies. The facts are there. Each year, you devote a lot of money to ecological fund. What is even ecological fund? These are monies that are supposed to be used to envisaging disaster in some areas that are ecologically ravaged. That is, you're not supposed to use this fund to correct the ecological defects so that when disaster comes, because there is no way you can stop natural disaster, it can easily be mitigated. The effect on the people can be reduced drastically. But what do we get? They don't do nothing with it. Therefore, like issue came to mind when Fayose was given a lot of money to correct the ecological infractions there. Did you use the money to do that? Rather, I was having poultry that you cannot even perceive the smell of the faces of the chicken. Talk less of seeing chicken feathers at those poultries. So these are issues, and all these things all these things are being done at the detriment of people's safety.
So Dr. Kayode, just before we go, how can we ensure a proper checks and balance system? But because if we take a look at this story on the Daily Trust, it talks about how over 39 billion naira has been given to the 36 states for ecological funds disbursement from June 2023 to 2024. And this is also aside the 3 billion naira which the Vice President last week said had been approved by the President Bola Tinubu for each state of the Federation to tackle all forms of natural disaster, including flooding. So how do we ensure some sort of checks and balances if this amount of money is being churned out for each state in the Federation to manage natural disasters, flood inclusive? Who should take the fall? How exactly do we ensure some sort of checks and balances and appropriate usage of the funds?
There is no way you can ensure proper checks and balances, nor the appropriate usage of those funds, in as much as there are a series of connivance between the three forms of government, that is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. Right. The legislature that is supposed to check on how these funds are being disbursed, coupled with its effective use, are not doing what they are supposed to do. They are in connivance with the executive. And when they are being caught, they will say, okay, let us go to the court. Who owns that same court? When they get to the court, you will see postponement upon postponement, and the case will last for how many years? And at the end of the day, some other cases will arise, and one will now forget those ones. So tell me, how do you do that? We can all remember up to today, the one that came to my mind now, the issue of Iyabo Obasanjo. The issue of Iyabo Obasanjo when he was in the Senate, and what he did with the, I think, Ministry of Health then. We can also remember the issue of off the mic. What have we heard out from it? We are seeing situations whereby even the president of the Senate will come down and say, the president is our father. Whatever he asks us to do, we will do. So tell me, how do you now ensure that the legislature perform their oversight functions as regards disbursement and effective usage of all these funds?
These are issues that should be really, really addressed. But we cannot go further with the conversation because our time is fast spent, and unfortunately we cannot borrow time today, Dr. Adedayo Kayode. But we'll definitely, have you some other time as a friend of the house. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing your thoughts with us on some of the stories on the national dailies.
It's my pleasure being with you this morning. Thanks for having me. Enjoy the rest of your day.
And you too. Bye. Thank you so much for joining us. That's a very safe place to land on the conversation this morning until these challenges or these loopholes are properly addressed. We might still be going around in circles. Right. But that wraps it up on our conversation with our guest and the newspaper review segment on the Breakfast Cafe this morning. We'll take a very quick break. When we're back, we'll be going straight into our views from the net. To stay with us.
Tease your taste buds from a world of delectable choices. High Impact Planet. Fun just got real.
Foment. Foment. Foment.
Well, if you just joined us, it's the Breakfast Cafe right here on High Impact TV, and this segment is where we get to talk about what you really want to talk about. We get to put a question out on the net, and then you tell us what it is you think. This was what we asked. What is that one thing you think should be taught in school and is not, right? So this segment is called Views from the Net, and we have lots of contributions. Well, let me find out if Sarah has something she wished had been taught in school. I can't think of any myself.
Okay, I think things are evolving. Right. Before, there was no much of skill acquisition in schools, but these days we have schools that have vocational trainings. Some use their summer classes to teach kids.
So things are improving.
Handworks. Things are improving. But I would say maybe one of the things that I would have loved to be taught in school that I wasn't taught is balancing, how do I put it, your mental health sanity and being, I'm looking for the word now, but how to manage your mental health, like when to withdraw from certain situations, how to stay afloat. A lot of conversations were not had around mental health, mental wellness in connection to physical wellness. I know we did PHE, a couple of us did PHE, physical and health education, right? But it was more on the physical, and then drink a lot of water and all of that. Maybe if they start to teach people how to also take care of their mental health, how to stay afloat, maybe it would help a couple of us.
Yeah.
You know.
In fact, let me go further. It's not a maybe. It really would have helped lots of people if the psychology, if at the basic level was taught to students. But let's find out what our contributors are saying. Kayode from Egbeda says emotional intelligence and mindfulness are essential life skills that help students manage stress, build relationships, and make informed decisions. By incorporating these topics into school curricula, we can foster a more empathetic and resilient generation.
You see that emotional intelligence also very true. You know, a lot of people are old. When I say old, they are adults, but they are not emotionally intelligent. So it's not by their age. So I think I agree with Kayode. If emotional intelligence is also taught in schools, it would also help a great deal. But do not forget that you can also be a part of this conversation. Do well to call us and let us know what is that one thing that you wish is being taught in schools, but it is not taught in schools at the moment. 0812-182-0154 is the number to call. But let's take Sammy from Yabatech. Sammy says financial literacy and entrepreneurship education can empower students to make informed decisions about money, navigate the economy, and develop innovative solutions to real-world problems. Financial literacy, very true. Very,
very true. Well, Ramad from Lagos says, as the world grapples with climate change, it's crucial that students learn about environmental sustainability, renewable energy, and eco-friendly practices. This knowledge will equip them to become responsible stewards of the planet. Very good one, Ramad. I agree.
This is quite in-depth, I must say. This is quite in-depth. And we also need to understand that sometimes children are children. Let's not overstretch them beyond
their capacity.
As much as it's important to talk about some things, teach them some things that will help them in life. Let's also know the stages. Let everything just be stage.
Yeah, but I do know that you could teach important things to children
in soft ways.
Very soft ways, using, you know, symbols and stuff.
And they catch up very fast.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let's quickly take Queen from Great Yabatech, our noble queen. I think media literacy and critical thinking should be done in school. Okay, let me finish our comment. In today's digital age, it's essential for students to learn how to critically evaluate information, identify biases, and recognize misinformation. This skill set will help them navigate the online world effectively, make informed decisions, and become active participants in democratic societies. Thank you, Queen. But I think I was taught media literacy.
What do you say?
I was taught media literacy.
Oh, really?
but it wasn't called media literacy. But it was able to open our eyes to these things. Also, I think some of these things also depend on your what's the word now? Class, in quotes, art, science, commercial. There are some things that they teach art students. They are general subjects, like mathematics, English, biology, economics,
history.
I didn't even do history. History wasn't taught in my time. Okay. Which other one am I missing out? Those were like the basic subjects. Then they had different segments, like the media literacy. Art students were doing that. Finance, is it finance? Commercial students were doing that. Science students were the one doing further maths, chemistry, physics. So sometimes as well, these topics or things are broken down based on your what's the word now? Class, if I could use that word, or your area of specialty.
Yeah, but I want us to even take a deeper look at Queen's contribution. She talked about being able to detect fake news from the real deal. It is so important, especially in this day and age where you have misinformation at its peak because of the advent of technology.
Everybody's a journalist now. Citizen journalism. I can just bring out my phone, start recording something, post it, and I tell myself I'm already a journalist.
And if you are not careful, you could stoke violence. For example, if you take a picture from way back years ago, say, oh my gosh, they are killing people in Borno, and you begin to post it, it will incite.
People will think that's what it is.
So we must be careful what we're taking so as not to, cause, unnecessary violence. Thank you, Queen. That was a very good one. Well, Destiny for starters, Destiny, I like your name. Destiny says, teaching cultural diversity and inclusion promotes empathy, understanding, and social cohesion. By celebrating diverse perspectives and experiences, we can create a more harmonious and equitable society. Thank you. That was a good one.
All right. Let's take Femi from Abuja. Femi says, mental health education is vital for students' well-being and academic success. By teaching self-care strategies, stress management, and mental health literacy, we can help students thrive in all aspects of life. Femi, I love your comment so much. I don't know if things have changed, but growing up in school, there were things that it was like a taboo to talk about as a student. As a student, it was like a taboo to say, I'm depressed. As a student, it was like a taboo to say, I'm very stressed, or I don't feel okay, because they're like, how old are you? What have you even faced?
Yeah.
But until we get to the point where we start to embrace these things and understand that the fact that the person is a teenager doesn't mean that the person doesn't face these things. There are people that bottled up a lot of things and it ended else somewhere.
Yeah.
Take me back to the conversation we had last Wednesday talking about PCOS, and I remember our guest Sarah Olagoke was talking about this, and we were talking about how even some students in secondary school, some girls, notice these things. They probably notice some changes in their body, but they don't speak about it. First off, who will listen? But like I said, things are getting better until we start to understand that it's okay for these students to talk about their mental health, they being stressed. And another thing is letting students understand that it's okay to feel. Now, not that you tell them it's okay to feel and they start now say, okay, I carry last in class. No. What I mean is sometimes parents have put this thing, or even teachers, that it's like a competition of life. You just want to keep going, even if you're breaking down. It's like you're in a competition with the whole world. It's okay to take a pause. It's okay to not be so great in biology. Doesn't mean that you cannot get better. It's okay to not like chemistry. It doesn't mean that you cannot work on it. Let us be able to help students balance these things and not make you feel like
That's where emotional intelligence comes in. But let's go a little bit deeper. We must overcome the stigma surrounding mental health. Some people, once they just hear mental health, they think someone is gone
like you're mad.
Bananas. Yes, like you're mad,
and
you're
you need
crazy.
to be taken into custody for something.
Yeah, that must be nipped in the bud. I'm glad that there is so much literacy now surrounding mental health. It's opening up. Right, and we must continue to ensure that people take care of their emotions, right, in their mind.
Another thing I would, sorry, just before we proceed, another thing I would like to mention is it's okay to, one of the things I wish were taught is that the grades are fantastic, the grades are good, but life is beyond the grades.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us were just pursuing. I must come first, top 3, top this, top that, forgetting that there are other things, other sides to it, learning a skill, learning a craft, developing myself, my talent. So we need to teach students that it should be taught in schools. It's good, have A's, it's fantastic, but that is not all to life.
Haven't you heard of graduates who bagged first class in the university frying akara for survival or riding Okada? It's not about the grades.
And there are graduates that also bagged first class and have fantastic jobs.
Yeah, so it's a mixed bag.
Exactly. Yeah. So we need to understand this, and that's one thing I'm always grateful for. The people around me going into university, there was nothing like, you must come back with first class. It was fine. If you come back with a first class, it's fantastic. If you don't come back with a first class as well, it's also okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand? But understand that as much as it's important to have a good grade, it's also important to focus on other things, build yourself, develop yourself, learn a skill, learn a craft. At the end of the day, to be beneficial.
Learn a skill. It's all about honing your skill. What it is you love doing, what it is you like doing. Find out, and then just develop in that area. Well, let's move on, shall we? We have this one here. It's coming from Kenneth. Kenneth writes us from Covenant University. He says, as data drives decision making in various industries, it's essential that students learn data science and analytics to stay relevant in the job market and make informed decisions. Kenneth from Covenant University.
Thank you, Kenneth. Let's take Dolapo from Abule Egba. Dolapo says, teaching conflict resolution and negotiation skills enables students to manage disagreements constructively, build strong relationships, and become effective problem solvers. Thank you so much, Dolapo.
This is so good. In fact, not just students, being able to resolve conflict. How about couples? When you know how to resolve conflict, I mean, it doesn't spill over, and it doesn't make heads roll. That was a beautiful one, Dolapo. Yeah, that was Dolapo.
Yes, Dolapo from Abule Egba.
All right, right here is Bolaji from Ikoro. Is it Ikoro or Ikorodu now? I don't know.
I don't think it's Ikorodu. I think it's Ikorodu.
Well, Bolaji says encouraging creativity and design thinking helps students develop innovative solutions. Think outside the box and cultivate entrepreneurial spirit. Thank you, Bolaji. In fact, these days we are being told that there is no box. You don't even need to think outside the box because there is no box. You can just think it, and you can become it. That was a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take Adebayo from London. Adebayo says, I think one thing that should be taught in school but isn't is financial literacy. This is the second person talking about financial literacy. Learning about managing money, budgeting, saving, and investing from a young age can be super valuable for everyone. It's a life skill that can have a big impact on our future. Kids are not too small to save. Students are not too small to save. From the little money that you're getting, if you understand the concept of saving, it would help you. If you know that you're not supposed to eat with your 10 fingers, by the time you grow up, that would resonate and you understand the essence of saving something. And
I think parents have been able to make sure that their kids save. We have piggy banks, right? We have, all these small wooden boxes or plastic boxes that parents will make. Colo, yeah?
And these days, what parents even do, if I could use the word Gen Z parents, as soon as a child is born, I know a couple of them, they open a bank account for the
right, I was going to say that, absolutely.
And they tell you whatever gift you want to give the child. put it in the account. I think that's fantastic.
It is.
If the parents are diligent and do not dip their hands
That's the
into
thing.
it.
So this one about opening an account for the child can go to the bank to deposit money or all of that. It has to be
The parent
the
or
parent.
the
So
guardian.
is the parent or the guardian diligent enough? But when you have your colo, you can do it, right?
And it's so easy to break the color.
it's very
So I think, you know, what most of them do is they put an age limit. The child doesn't have access to the account till like 18, some of them. But if the parent is actually diligent, trust me, before that age 18, the child would at least have something very sustainable.
fantastic. I like it. Are you up next or am I the one?
You're
that's
taking the next.
All right, this one here says, I think mental health education should be included in the curriculum. Understanding how to take care of our mental well-being is crucial in today's fast-paced world. Fumilayo from Lagos. I cannot even agree more with you, Fumilayo. You're on point. That's very essential. Thank you.
Right, the last one here is Tokumbo from Unilag. Tokumbo says, teaching empathy and active listening skills helps students understand diverse perspectives, build stronger relationships, and become more compassionate individuals. Thank you so much. Empathy, listening skills. It's important to be great listeners and be empathetic.
Yeah, I agree.
You think that's the...
I mean, the art of listening is like gold. You must listen in order to attend to the person speaking to
Not
you.
to attack. Very true. But that's it on our views from the net segment. Thank you so much for sending in your comments. We'll take a break. We'll be back with another conversation in a moment. Just stay with us.
It's the Breakfast Cafe right here on High Impact TV, and this segment we take a look at topical issues, right? And today we are talking about policy and reform influencing legislation to address systemic barriers. And our guest today is policy. Oh my gosh, Izuchukwu Uboko. He's a legal practitioner. But before he comes on board, though, a little background to this topic. Nigeria has been grappling with systemic barriers that have hindered its development and progress. These barriers, often rooted in historical injustices, discriminatory policies, and outdated laws, have perpetuated inequality, poverty, and marginalization. Now, to address these issues, it is crucial to advocate for policy reforms that promote equity, justice, and opportunity for all Nigerians. Now, legislation serves as the foundation of a nation's governance, shaping its institutions, defining its rules, and determining the rights and responsibilities of its citizens. In Nigeria, Outdated or discriminatory laws can limit access to essential resources like education, healthcare, and employment. To dismantle these systemic barriers and create a more equitable society, it is essential to influence legislation through advocacy, education, and civic agreement. To this end, we will have this conversation today, and like I said earlier on, Izuchukwu Oboko, legal practitioner and public affairs analyst, is our guest today. Thank you so much, Izuchukwu, for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's always a pleasure to be here.
All right.
Thank you.
Always a pleasure to have you. Now, let's begin, yeah? What are the most significant systemic barriers in Nigeria that hinder social and economic development? For starters.
The most significant, some of which you have mentioned in the course of your introduction. Infrastructure is one of them, which also in some instances spirals into the education sector, right? Because as much as there are a deficit of infrastructure across the country, infrastructural facilities across the country, the education sector, the health sector is also affected. Among other sectors are also affected.
All right, that's a good one. So,
I hope you can still hear me.
absolutely. A follow-up to that question now before Sarah comes in now. How can policy reform effectively address these issues you just mentioned?
Yes, the only way forward is to continue to improve on the ways we do things. A philosopher once said that an unexamined life is not worth living. So policy reform is one step in a good direction. In other words, we have an existing system or existing policy, and there is need to make changes to it from time to time. There can be no other ways. That is why one of the very fundamental elements of law and policies is that they get to be abolished, they get to be reenacted, they get to be amended. That's why today we have up to the 5th alteration, in other words, amendment to the Constitution. So there's been first, there's been second, because the society continues to grow. New things happen, and as they happen, so must our laws and policies be amended to reflect the reality of the times we live in. So policy reform is a very, very critical aspect of our lives.
Right. These things cannot just go underway without talking about the inclusion of civil society organizations and groups. Now, how do civil society organizations as well as grassroots movements influence the legislative process in Nigeria to drive reforms that could target healthcare, education, as well as good governance?
Yes. Civil society organizations are a very, very key and critical component of policy reforms. In fact, in the past and even at present, they have been behind some of the significant policy changes that we have seen. We have seen civil society organizations mount pressure on relevant government agencies. We have seen civil society organizations grant interviews like I am now, sensitize the public on the ills of certain government policies and the benefit of a new one. Very recently, as recent as maybe 2 or 3 months ago, there was this thing about the Samoa Agreement.
Yeah.
I recall I was here to also talk about it. I remember that SERAP and other civil society organizations have always been at the forefront of a number of issues, including advocacy against human rights violations, among many others. So yes, the civil society organization can mount pressure, they can engage the relevant stakeholders, they can engage in sensitization of the public and the entire citizenry, among other steps that they can take.
Fantastic. When we talk about reforms, it has to do with all facets of our life as a nation. If you remember the time of our former head of state, IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, he was advised by the International Monetary Fund, IMF, to really cut cut things down when it comes to the economy. And then he came up with a structural adjustment program. Nigerians turned it to the stomach adjustment program, SAP. Now, fast forward to 2023, 2024, former President Muhammadu Buhari and now incumbent President Tinubu, where you have the same organization, the IMF, advising the removal of subsidy, which is a major issue in Nigeria right now. Yeah, but let me not put words in your mouth. So this is the question. What role do international partnerships play in shaping reforms aimed at addressing systemic barriers in Nigeria? And how should our leaders take it? Hook, line, and sinker, or with a pinch of salt?
Okay, I think we should look at it this way. You know, there's no, I mean, it's no longer news that the world is gradually becoming one very small village. You know, the concept of globalization, and in our respective families, we are individuals, we have siblings, or there are family members, right? So it is the same thing with a country. A country cannot exist in isolation, right? I mentioned the Samoa Agreement not long ago. This is a group of countries who are affected by the same factors, climate, economic, among many others, coming together to address their collective challenges. Now, under that agreement, certain responsibilities are expected of the countries in furtherance to that agreement. Now, in some instances, when such multilateral treaties are made or reached, right, certain organizations are established to further the objectives. So for organizations like IMF and many others, right, their role is very, very critical, because they had responsibility to ensure, among others, economic stability world over. Because what affects one country of the world, it will affect every other country, because there are citizens from numerous countries who do business in Nigeria, citizens of Nigeria in other countries of the world who do businesses. So international organizations, they are very, very critical in that they are not just there to give policy guidance to countries. They also have responsibility to monitor and evaluate compliance to, if there are international agreements. For instance, let me bring it home. Well, we have the United Nations Declaration on Human and People's Rights. At the African level, we have the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Now, there are organizations that are responsible for monitoring compliance with human rights. Now, we have the ECOWAS Court, who have the responsibility to, among others, ensure compliance and implementation with the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. Same way we have our courts, where any individual feels their right has been violated or there is a threat of violating that right, they have a responsibility to approach the courts for redress. Depending on the level, at each of the government entities, there are administrative procedures for addressing these things. But where individuals are not satisfied with administrative solutions, they can approach the court in certain instances. You understand? So the role of international organization is very, very critical in ensuring that systemic barriers are, removed. Right. Notable among them is the issue of gender equality. There's been a lot in that gender equality, and very recently, some of us in Africa may not really agree the issue of gender. People LGBTQ plus, and all of those advocacy going in that direction. You recall that in 2014, Nigeria responded by enacting a same-sex prohibition act, while in other countries of the world, they were receptive. Countries like Canada, I recall very well that President Jonathan was to grant a 2-day state visit to Canada. But because of the quick passage of the Same-Sex Prohibition Act in 2013, the Canadian government cancelled that visit, because Nigeria is a state that will not subscribe to same-sex marriage. So these are the things. In some instances, countries agree with international organizations. In some instances, they are at liberty to take different position. But the role of international organizations cannot be overstated in ensuring that systemic barriers are addressed, because it creates a lot of problems for them. The issue with Nigerians who want to japa through the desert or through the border. You see, when there is this exodus of Nigerians from Nigeria, it creates economic and social problems for the countries where they are emigrating to.
Right.
And these are some of the issues.
Right. Izuchukwu, you know that every policy or every reform comes with its own challenges. Sometimes they want to roll out some policies that are for the benefit of Nigerians or the nation at large, but it is met by bottlenecks, it is met by gatekeepers that make it difficult to pull through. So now, what are some of these challenges that are associated with implementing and sustaining policy reforms in Nigeria, and how can these challenges be looked into and properly addressed?
Yes, some of the challenges that can be faced by reform, the key one among them is the political will. Sometimes when the political will is lacking, it is very difficult. It's like, I'm not sure this is an appropriate illustration, but when you take the horse to the stream, you cannot make it drink water except it drinks by itself. That's a pictorial depiction of a lack of political will, what it can do, right? Bureaucracy and red tapeism is one of them. There is a lot of bureaucracy. Some of these are actually designed to ensure balance, to ensure accountability, right? To ensure that there are checks and balances. For instance, when the National Assembly passes a bill, right, one of the ways by which the executive checks them is to ensure that the president assents to such bill. But in certain instances where the president is not assenting and the National Assembly feels very strongly about such bills, there are provisions in the Constitution to bypass the presidential assent to such bills so that they can then become an act, right? So I would say that, and a lot of times too, it is a lack of proper understanding, of what the citizens are going through can also be an issue. When there isn't enough data, or when the data available is not properly analyzed, it can be a problem. You know, very recently, in the view of the minister, the Honorable Minister of Education, he felt very strongly that disallowing students who are less than 18 years from writing WAEC will be a solution of some sort to some of the educational problems that we have, right? I want to believe that the minister may have acted based on the information available to him, or may not have properly analyzed the data available to him in coming to propose that policy. But Nigerians rose up, they opposed it. I believe in the course of granting interviews like this, in the course of writing articles, whether on LinkedIn or several media, right, a lot of people were able to present superior arguments to the Honorable Minister and his team. Then the government saw that, look, it is actually foolhardy for us to embark on a policy like this. So these are some of the reasons why these things can happen. And yes, to ensure that these things don't happen, I think that the will of government needs to be faster. Okay. The pace of decision making needs to be faster. Whatever they need to do, you know, and they still ensure that there are checks and balances and that accountability is also felt. And of course, there has to be political will. That is the key. Once there is a will, they say there is a way. When there is that lack of will, there's hardly anything that can be done. As beautiful as our electoral act is, and during the last election, we saw how what would ordinarily have been a very transparent process, the presidential election particularly, right, became so opaque, so, you know, was not transparent. And we saw how emotional Nigerians were. You know how beautiful it would be for me to sit in the comfort of my house and then election all over the country. I'm monitoring it through Beavers. I'm seeing how things are going. How exactly did the INEC cancel the use of electronic transmission? He said there were glitches. I'm not so sure today if there have been any details attached to those glitches other than there were glitches. What are the nature of these glitches? People are enlightened now. You cannot just wake up and say glitches. What is the nature of the glitch?
Right.
Is it so substantial that it cannot be resolved? So these are some of the issues. I want to believe that the cancellation of the use of electronic transmission, though an issue for another day, is one of such instances where government has to demonstrate that political will.
You know,
and not just engage in a capture or some sort of truncate the process.
So in your last submission, you talked about data, and then you talked about technological advancement when it comes to politics in the country. I don't know if you've seen the dailies this morning, but let me draw your attention to the front page of the Punch, where it talked about the Edu Gulf poll, and it said, major headline, petrol crisis threatens election as APC, PDP prepare for showdown. And this is the rider. This is where I want to draw your attention to. The rider said, INEC transporters review election materials, personnel carriage contract, parties reject last-minute strategies. Why are they doing this? Because they are saying the petrol scarcity might affect transportation of these materials from one place to the other. This is my question to you. How can data-driven insights be utilized to craft more effective legislation that addresses the root causes of inequality and limited access to essential services in the country?
They say that data is everything. Data is everything. And really, when we say data, we're talking about information.
Yes.
Right? A person's decision cannot be better than the information at their disposal. If I have information that is as recent as 2 weeks ago, and I'm expected to take a decision, right? My decision cannot be better than the information available at my disposal as at 2 weeks ago. But if I have a more recent information, there is every likelihood that the decision I'm going to be making will be as recent and as effective as the information at my disposal. Now, when I have that information, my own understanding or my ability to digest, understand, and analyze that data at my disposal too is also a factor. So, in all of this, in any policy reform at all, we cannot understate the importance of data. Data is, I can say, everything, but we know that political will is even the first line of action to even consider any data. So now, in getting that data, government needs to engage relevant stakeholders. When this government came into force, a few weeks after, in fact, it was on the day of inauguration that they announced that subsidy has been removed. A few weeks after, there was a committee that was set up to look at the impact of the subsidy and propose solution and way forward. Now, when I was talking to a few colleagues about that development, I told them I do not see the honesty on the part of this government. And for whatever it is worth, this is just they say window dressing, just for it not to. Yes, it's a hypocritical move. As we speak and as we are in, we're having this interview today. What has been the outcome of that committee that was set up by the president? Absolutely nothing came out of it. Nothing effectual came out of it. In fact, the fuel price has even been further increased from then on. Is it true? One would have expected. Yes, please.
Please land on your thoughts. Just land on your thoughts.
Yes, one would have expected that a very responsible government will, before implementing any policy, do a stakeholder engagement. Engage with the wide spectrum of people that could be affected before coming out to announce our policy. Or having announced the policy, follow through with the committee that has been set up and find a way to implement the recommendations.
I'll take you on the last question based off what you just talked about, stakeholder engagement. Now we're talking about a need for inclusion, carrying everybody along, in quote. Now, what are some of the strategies that can be used to ensure that policy reforms in Nigeria are inclusive and also represent the needs of marginalized and vulnerable communities? You just mentioned stakeholder engagement, which is one of the ways that could have been done. But what are some other strategies? In less than 1 minute, you can answer that because of our time.
Yes, other strategies that the government can adopt really is sourcing for data and analyzing it properly. Even if it means engaging consultants to do so, they need to do so. And in some instances, they need to do targeted policy reforms. For instance, there is a lot of clamor for gender inclusion in politics, even though I have my reservation about the view that there has to be a law at all to encourage women to get into politics, right? I have my own reservation about that. But then, these are instances where, to ensure that those who are marginalized or the vulnerable community are included, you need to go down to this community, find out what are the challenges. When you find out, in some instances, for instance, we have the NDDC, Niger Delta Development Commission. We have the Northeast Development Commission. You see, other regions have started clamoring for their own development commissions as well, right? But we see what the NDDC is doing now. Whether they are effective on their mandate is a different ballgame entirely. But to the extent that that commission is essentially for oil-producing states and to address the challenges that arise, that has arisen and may arise from oil exploration in that region. So yes, government can take these targeted steps, in addition to other steps.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, Izuchukwu Oboko, and for sharing your thoughts with us on these issues. Thank you so much.
It is always a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Enjoy
the rest of your day.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very insightful.
Right. Very, very.
The clincher for me, actually, I have a couple of takeaways. I actually took notes. The first one was a quote he did from a renowned philosopher, his late now Socrates, said, "An unexamined life is not worth living." So true. And then he talked about stakeholder engagement before implementing policies, which was not done before the removal of subsidy.
How many times have we seen stakeholder engagement taking place before decisions are made?
That's the thing. That's a classical example of a tail wagging the dog instead of the dog wagging the tail, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And that's where we would draw the curtain on this segment. Let's give you our trending story for today.
Balance. To me, so I'm just here to sympathize with you. I know your palace was overtaken by flood. I've had the report. My vice president gave me details. But to me personally, I know I have...
The hardship is too much. The hardship is telling on us. I have 2 children and I'm working hard. Everything is on the hike. Many young widows are suffering today. Please pity us. Have mercy on us. Dear First Lady Oluremi Tinubu, please, you are a mother and you are a wife. And I know and I believe you know what we are going through. Especially young widows like me. I became a widow because of insecurity in Nigeria. My children are fatherless because of insecurity. And I still keep working hard. I still keep pushing. But at this point, I'm fed up. I'm tired. I'm fed up. And I can't take it any longer. Dear President, please, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I want you to have mercy on us, especially young widows. We are tired. The hardship is telling on us. Before many of us begin to pay one by one, I beg, have mercy. This hardship is too much, and I'm educated. I'm hardworking, I'm not abiding. But I still keep pushing. I still keep hustling for my children that Nigeria made fatherless.
This segment is where we get to take a look at trending stories, and you just saw a young widow who is lamenting the hardship. Gosh, that's biting hard on citizens of our dear nation, Nigeria. Prior to that, though, you saw President Tinubu in Borno, who paid a courtesy call to the traditional ruler whose palace had been damaged, had been flooded. Yes. Bring me back to the widow now. Imagine if this happens in the U.S. Oh my gosh, trust the American leadership to spin this story and turn it to their advantage, especially in an election year. Now, if this doesn't move the First Lady Remi Tinubu, whose name was specifically called, I don't know what else will move, the presidency.
What even gets me is the fact that she said she became a widow owing to the insecurity in the country. So that already dealt a blow on her. Yeah. And then now she has to cater to the needs of 2 children all by herself with the current reality. This is just one out of the many other widows, in quote, that maybe are not on social media putting this out there. But a lot of comments in regards to this video, people have been calling out, tagging the president and the first lady on the video, calling them out, asking for. Some people have said they should find her before she does something to herself. You know, she said something, they need to do something before they start to buy, quote, which is like kill each other, kill themselves. Things
so
like
she's bordering on suicide right now.
So we need to pay attention to these things. There are a lot of people that are floating and thinking of suicide in the real sense of it because of the kind of hardship that is going on. But this is a call. This is one of the calls that Nigerians have been putting out there, and some people also made some very funny comments, in quotes. Some have said very soon we'll see them sending bags of rice to her because it seems like rice is the only solution to our problems in this country. But our video touches on unemployment, a video touches on insecurity, a video touches on the bad economy, a video touches on the fact that she said it that she's hardworking, she works hard still.
But the thing is, one very important thing you said is this is just one out of so many widows, and not just widows, vulnerables. Yeah. Now, so if the presidency is going to do anything about this situation, they shouldn't just cater to her. Address Nigerians who are just at their last nerve right now.
No, it goes beyond addressing. The president has been addressing.
Oh, I'm saying cater to the need of people.
Exactly.
Not just address.
Because the address keeps going in the same pattern.
No, not theoretical addresses. So meet the needs of the citizens.
But they rolled out rice.
But did you get the rice?
In fact, I didn't get the rice. It doesn't even get to this. It doesn't even get to this location. But rice is not the solution to everything. Provide a sustain. You give us rice. Okay, well, how are we going to cook the rice when I can't afford to buy gas because of how high it is? I can't buy other foodstuffs because I can't afford it. I can't live. I can't survive, and I'll just stock up rice in the house.
I mean, Sarah, since this administration came on board, has there been a day where Nigerians were saying, oh, thank God for hope renewed?
That's a rhetorical question there, I must say.
It's been from one level of anger and despondency to the next level. No wonder Khan is saying, do something before it becomes too late.
And I've been seeing it on social media how there is a plan for a protest on the 1st of October.
On the 1st of October?
Yes, I've been seeing it around.
Gosh.
Fingers crossed. But that's it on our trending segment this morning. Let's give you a weather forecast for today. I hope you've taken note of the weather situation in your location and, pay close attention and protect yourself. But that's where we wrap up the conversation on the Breakfast Cafe this morning. Thank you so much for staying with us from 7 a.m. till this very moment. Major thanks to our guests, Dr. Adedayo Kayode and Izuchukwu Oboko. Major thanks to everyone that made this possible, and to you, our wonderful viewers out there. Remember that we'll be here again to give you all those shows 7 a.m. tomorrow. I am Sarah Owusu-Ansah. Have yourself a fantastic Tuesday.
Well, I do hope we lived up to our expectation of making this a bumper edition. If you did like it, well, keep a date again with us, same time, same station. Until then, I am Vivian Oguche. Have a fantastic day ahead. Bye.
Face of Ezekiel, the journey has been good, bad. It's been here and there, truthfully. The first year was like, something you just started for the first time. It looked like, how's it gonna go? Along the line, it turned out okay. Second year, we put more effort, but the thing is, every year it gets better.
Actually, this is the 6th edition of Face of Ezekiel. Since 6 years ago, we've been working on this particular pageantry, and it's not really easy in this kind of economy where you come out, try to make sure that